Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we have got a one-story video. Full story, no updates, but absolute chaos from start to finish. Guy's best friend comes back to town dying of cancer. Guy takes care of him, drives him to every appointment. His wife starts helping too. Then she tells her husband she is pregnant and the baby is not his. It is his dying best friend's child. What happens next is one of the coldest things I have ever covered. Timestamps below. Let us get into it. Your best friend said he wanted to be a father, so I slept with him and got pregnant. My wife confessed the affair. Our daughter sided with her, so I forced them to face the consequences. I had always been the kind of man people felt comfortable around. At 45, I had a calm voice and an easy smile that made me a familiar face in Glendale, Texas, a tight-knit community of fewer than 1,000 people. I was a volunteer firefighter and spent my weekdays as a general handyman. Plumbing, electrical, drywall, whatever needed fixing. I was not rich by any stretch, but I was dependable, and that counted for a lot in a place like Glendale. I lived with my wife Vivian, my high school sweetheart, and our 17-year-old daughter Lily in a modest house at the south end of town, not far from where both our families lived. The Webbs were deep-rooted in Glendale. Sunday dinners, school fundraisers, church services, I was at all of it. Everyone knew me. Everyone liked me. That is just Nolan, Pastor Leland once said during a sermon, nodding in my direction. Steady as the North Star. Hey Nolan, the sheriff would holler from his cruiser as he rolled through town. You ever going to fix that coffee machine in my office? Or are you just going to keep dragging your feet? I would laugh and adjust my tool belt. I am saving you from your caffeine habit, Ray. You should be paying me for that. People trusted me. Kids waved when I drove past in my beat-up tan pickup. The elderly had my number stuck to their fridges on little yellow notes. I was the guy who showed up, the guy who fixed things. My daughter Lily had just been accepted into a summer music camp in Austin. She played the violin and she had outgrown everything the local school could teach her. Vivian had been floating on air for days. She is really leaving, she said one evening while folding laundry. I was tightening the handle on a kitchen cabinet. Our little girl is not so little anymore. I paused to look out the window where Lily sat on the porch swing, humming some song I did not recognize. She is going to do great things, I said. The next morning I went over to Mrs. Brennan's place to fix a faulty light switch. She handed me a glass of sweet tea like she always did. You have such a good family, Nolan. Not many people are as blessed as you. I know, I told her. Believe me, I am grateful every single day. But even as I said it, something in my chest tightened. I did not know why. Later that night, long after Vivian and Lily went to bed, I sat alone on the porch. Crickets chirped. Stars blinked overhead. I rubbed my thumb against the calloused edge of my hand and just sat there. Something was not right. The feeling would not go away. Like noticing a shadow in a doorway right before it swings open and something ugly steps through. They say when your life is about to change forever, it does not come with a bang. It comes with a whisper. For me, it came with a knock on the door and the return of Brody Tate. Brody and I had been inseparable growing up. Two boys running through the dusty roads of Glendale like we owned the county. But life had different plans. Brody chased ambition and left town. I stayed, married Vivian, and put down roots in the same dirt we had both dreamed of escaping. Now Brody was back, and he was not the same. He stood on my porch one gray morning, looking 20 years older than he should have. Pale face, sharp cheekbones, eyes dimmed by something deeper than exhaustion. Stage 4 blood cancer, he told me quietly, as we sat on the porch that afternoon with glasses of sweet tea. The doctors gave me about a year, maybe less. I did not speak at first. I just stared out at the field across the road. The wind pushed against the tips of the grass like the whole world was exhaling. You should have told me sooner, I said. My voice cracked on the last word. Brody managed a weak laugh. Would have ruined the surprise. From that moment on, I made it my mission to take care of my friend. I drove him 3 hours round trip to his appointments, picked up his prescriptions, cleaned his house on weekends when the nausea pinned him to the couch, and when I could not be there, Vivian stepped in. At first, I was grateful. Vivian had always been nurturing. She was the kind of person who drew people in with warmth. She cooked for Brody, changed his sheets, brought over board games to keep his spirits up. She even rearranged her work schedule to spend more time helping out. But then I started noticing things. Dinners at home got quieter. Vivian missed more family meals. When she was home, she was distracted, scrolling her phone, staring out the window. The warmth that used to fill our house was disappearing one piece at a time, and nobody was talking about it. One night, she left right after dinner, claiming Brody had a rough day after his treatment. I offered to go instead. He asked for me, she said quickly, not meeting my eyes. Over the next few weeks, the distance between us turned into a canyon. The bed we had shared for over 2 decades started feeling like foreign territory. Every night she would come in late, lie down with her back to me, say nothing. I tried once or twice to talk about it. She would get up and leave the room. One night, Lily came into the kitchen where I sat alone at the table. "Dad, why is Mom never home? She is just always running errands, even on weekends." "You should ask your mother," I said. No emotion. I walked past her down the hall. I stopped talking to Vivian altogether. Not in the morning, not at dinner, not even in passing. I moved through the house like a shadow, still present but invisible. Family dinners were gone. The table that once held laughter and Sunday roasts sat mostly untouched. I ate alone on the porch or in the garage with a thermos of coffee. Lily took her plates to her room. The 3 of us were in the same house but on completely different planets. The thing about silence is it does not just fill a room. It replaces everything that used to be there. Every joke, every shared glance, every late-night conversation. All gone. Replaced by nothing. And nothing is louder than people think. Some mornings Vivian would make eggs just the way I liked them. Leave the plate near the toaster. A quiet peace offering. Every time she came back, the plate was untouched. She knew what that meant. She tried other things too. Left notes on the counter. Bought groceries she thought I would notice. Once she left a mug of fresh coffee on my workbench in the garage. I walked right past it. Each time she made an attempt, my silence got louder. And each time I could see the confusion growing on her face. She still had no idea how far gone I already was. One morning she lingered at the door while I laced up my boots. "Nolan, I made you breakfast," she said softly. I did not look up, did not glance at her, grabbed my keys and walked right past her. To me, she was no longer a voice. She was a distant sound I had decided to tune out. Vivian kept going to Brody's place, still bringing food, still washing sheets, still helping him through the pain. But at night, when she walked past our bedroom and saw the door closed, something twisted in her. She told herself I was just being jealous, that I still loved her, that I would come around. I always did. She stood in front of the mirror one night brushing her hair. "He is 45, she whispered to herself. "He is not going anywhere. He is mine. I am his wife. He will never divorce me." But what Vivian never understood was that even the kindest man has limits. Even a heart that gives without asking for anything in return eventually gets tired of being ignored. When you take an honest man for granted, when you mistake his silence for surrender, that love does not just fade. It rots. Now hold on. Let me jump in here for a second. Vivian told herself in the mirror that Nolan would never leave her. That is the most dangerous assumption you can make about a quiet and loyal man. She thinks his silence means acceptance. It does not. Silence from a man like this means the bridge is already burning, and she just has not looked up yet. Pay attention to what happens next. I came home one evening to a dark house. Lily's door was shut. A plate covered in foil sat on the table. Cold food. I sighed, washed up, and sat down. Barely got a bite in before Vivian walked through the door looking nervous. Something about her energy was different. Off. She told me Brody was in the hospital. His heart was failing. He did not have much time. The words hit like a slow motion train. Inevitable and cruel. My oldest friend. The boy I shared every secret with. The man who left town with dreams and came back only to die. He was fading. And yet he was also the reason my entire life had fallen apart. I opened the bedroom door. Vivian stood in the hallway, eyes swollen, hands clasped. She could not hold my gaze. I stared at her for a long beat, trembling lips, guilt, Shame. I could see all of it written across her face. "What else?" I said flatly. She whispered it like the walls might hear. "I am pregnant." Time stopped. The hallway went so silent the refrigerator hummed like a jet engine. My face did not move. I stood there processing those two words and feeling the ground beneath me shift. Not physically, but everything I thought I knew about my life, my wife, my home, all of it tilted sideways in that one moment. "How far along?" I asked. 3 months. My expression stayed frozen. "It is not mine, is it?" Her head snapped up. Tears flooded instantly. "It is not yours, Nolan." I stepped closer. My eyes, the same ones people in town once called warm, were now completely empty, like someone had reached in and scooped out everything that made them human. "Then let us get a DNA test, because I do not trust you." Vivian's knees buckled. She grabbed at the wall and slid to the floor with a dull thud. I did not move, did not pick her up, did not offer water. I sat down in the chair a few feet away, hands on my knees, and watched her. When she finally opened her eyes and saw me sitting there, she whispered, "You did not even help me up. I have been on the floor this whole time. Now you know what it feels like to be abandoned," I said. She flinched like I had slapped her. She pulled herself together, wiped her face, and met my eyes. "Yes, the child is Brody's. He was dying. He told me he wanted to be a father before he left. He wanted someone to carry on his name." So I agreed. I gave her a cold smile. "At least I am honest. I am not the one who wrecked a home." She dropped to her knees in front of me. "Please, Nolan, let me have this child. I will take care of everything." It was his final wish. I did not flinch. "You never asked me. You went behind my back, made your choice without me. So do not come asking for my blessing now." At that moment, the front door opened. Lily walked in with her backpack over one shoulder. She saw her mother red-eyed on the floor and me standing stiff in the doorway. She froze. "Did you tell him?" she asked carefully. I turned and looked into my daughter's eyes. I did not speak. I just smiled. And that smile was not her father's. Not the man who used to carry her on his shoulders during parades. That smile made her take a step back. I nodded once, grabbed my keys. "We are going to the hospital. I need to look Brody in the eye." "All right, pause. 2 bombs just dropped and I need to point something out." Vivian's excuse is that Brody wanted to be a father before he died, so she got pregnant for him. But think about it. If he really just wanted a child to carry his name, there are other ways to do that. They went straight to the option that required getting in bed together. That tells you everything. And Lily knew. His own daughter knew and said nothing. Nolan clocked that immediately. He is not going to forget it. The drive to the hospital was dead silent. No radio, no words. Just the hum of tires on asphalt. My hands were steady on the wheel. Vivian glanced over at me a few times, but there was nothing left in my expression to read. No softness. No trace of the man she had married. She kept trying to figure out what I was going to do. The truth is, she had no idea. And that scared her more than anything. We arrived just before 7. I parked, got out, and walked straight to the reception desk. "I am here to see Brody Tate. I am listed as his emergency contact. Room 214, down by the ICU." The hallway felt longer than it should have. My boots echoed on the linoleum. The fluorescent lights hummed above us, washing everything in a cold, sterile glow. Vivian followed behind me without a word. Every nerve in her body was on fire. She kept glancing at me like she was trying to read something off my face. There was nothing to read. Inside room 214, the beep of machines and the faint hiss of oxygen filled the air. Brody lay still in the bed. Gaunt, skin stretched tight over bone. Tubes snaked across his arms. An oxygen mask clung to his face, fogging slightly with each shallow breath. His eyes, dim and ringed with exhaustion, opened when he heard us come in. There was a flicker of recognition. Then something else. Fear. I dragged a metal stool across the floor with a long screech and planted it right beside his bed. I sat down, elbows on my knees, and leaned in close. Brody blinked, trying to focus. "Hey, buddy," I said quietly. The corner of my mouth turned up, but there was nothing behind it. "I came to tell you something." He tried to speak through the mask, but all that came out was muffled air. She told me everything. I know about the baby. His eyes went wide. His head barely moved. I tilted my head. Here is what is going to happen. That child is going to be born. You know why? Because I want your son to grow up without anyone to call dad. I want him to go to school and watch every other kid get picked up by their fathers while he waits for someone who will never show up. Vivian gasped behind me. I did not turn around. I tapped the guardrail with my knuckle. The man who helped create him is going to die right here in this bed, and that woman behind me is going to raise him completely alone. No one is going to step up. No one is going to save her. I leaned even closer. My voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. Every man who comes into her life after you will use her and leave. And your son will watch every single one of them walk out the door. That is the legacy you are leaving behind. He will carry that weight his entire life. And one day, he will resent you for it. He will resent the man who brought him into this world, and the woman who burned down her family to make it happen. The monitor beside Brody's bed started screaming. First a steady climb in beeps, then rapid and chaotic. His chest heaved. Breaths went shallow and fast. He clutched the blanket, mouth opening with no sound coming out. His heart rate went through the roof. A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Sir, you need to step back right now." Doctors rushed in. I stood perfectly still, calm, unmoved. I looked down at Brody one final time and whispered just loud enough for only him to hear. "I came to watch you suffer." Then I turned and walked slowly into the hallway. The glass door slid shut behind me. I stood there like a statue, arms crossed, staring through the glass. Brody's eyes locked onto mine even as the doctors swarmed around him. The two of us, once brothers, held each other's gaze through that thin pane of glass. The beeping turned into one long flat tone. "He is flatlining," one of the doctors said. The room went still. A nurse stepped into the hall and shook her head. "He is gone." I stood there for a moment. Then I turned and walked away without looking back. Vivian collapsed behind me. Her knees gave out and she hit the cold tile. A nurse rushed to her side. I did not stop. Outside, I pulled out my phone and called my mother. "Mom, Vivian is at the hospital. Go pick her up." She started asking questions, but I had already hung up. I disappeared for a week. Truck gone, phone off. Nobody in Glendale heard a word from me. The town whispered. Brody's death. Vivian's collapse at the hospital. My vanishing act. Rumors spread through that community like mold on wet wood. People who had known me my entire life were suddenly asking questions they never thought they would ask about Nolan Webb. Some said I had driven to the coast. Others thought I was staying with family out of state. Nobody knew. And that was exactly the point. Then just as suddenly as I had left, I came back. That same day, a courier showed up at Vivian's door holding a sealed envelope. Divorce papers. She read them standing alone in the living room, hands shaking, chest tight. She tried to call me. Still off. By that evening, both families gathered at the house. My mother, Donna, stood in the doorway, pale and stunned. Vivian's father, Frank Calloway, a quiet man who rarely raised his voice, stood near the staircase looking like someone had pulled the ground out from under him. Lily hovered near the back, arms crossed, grief all over her face. Vivian came in last, eyes bloodshot, barely standing. The tension was suffocating. You could feel it pressing down on every person in that room like a physical weight. Donna broke the silence. "Why are you doing this, Nolan?" Frank stepped forward. "She is pregnant. You are going to divorce her now?" I set my coffee mug down on the table and turned my gaze to Vivian. "Why do you not tell them?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She just stood there, trembling, staring at the floor. "Your daughter slept with Brody Tate," I said to Frank directly. "She is carrying his child, not mine." The room went cold, gasps, then nothing. Every eye turned to Vivian. She did not deny it, did not say a word. Just stood there with her eyes on the ground, and the truth hanging over her like a cloud she had been running from for months. Frank knelt beside Vivian, who had crumbled to the floor sobbing. "The child is innocent," he said. "I know what she did was wrong. But think about the baby. If Vivian is under this much stress, it will harm the child. It is not the baby's fault. I looked at him, then at Vivian, and I smiled. Not a kind smile, not even close. Every second she is near me, I will remind her exactly what she did. She threw away 2 decades for a man who was never her husband. Donna whispered something under her breath about what had happened to her son. I heard it, did not care. Frank stood up. His face was gray with exhaustion. We are leaving, he said. And they did. Nobody argued, nobody pushed back. They just walked out in silence. A few weeks later, we were in court. The news had gotten around that Glendale's quiet hero was divorcing his wife. People could not believe it. The man who showed up for everyone, who fixed things for free, who pulled people out of burning buildings. That man was in divorce court. It did not make sense to anyone, until the details started leaking out. My lawyer Garrett Hines had flown in that morning. His reputation as a ruthless litigator preceded him. The courtroom was small, but packed with curious eyes from town. Vivian's lawyer opened with a plea for mandatory mediation. In the interest of preserving a 20-year marriage, he said. Garrett stood up. That would be a waste of everyone's time, Your Honor. A few questions for Mrs. Webb will make that clear. The judge allowed it. Garrett approached the stand with a calm precision that made the whole room tense up. He asked Vivian if she loved her husband. She said yes, more than her life. Then he asked if that love included the vow she made on her wedding day to forsake all others. Vivian did not answer that one. Then he asked her point blank why she slept with Brody. She told the truth in front of the whole courtroom. He wanted to be a father. He did not have much time left. He wanted his name to carry on. So I agreed. I slept with him and got pregnant. Garrett let that hang in the air for a long moment. Then he turned the knife. You knew he was dying. You knew he could never raise that child. So was your plan all along to present your husband with another man's baby and expect him to raise it as his own? Without his knowledge? Without his consent? Dead silence. Garrett straightened up and looked at the judge. That is not love, Your Honor. That is fraud. The judge sat back, clearly troubled. But he ordered a 90-day court-supervised mediation period anyway, before any final ruling. The sessions took place in a quiet office outside of town. Soft furniture, muted colors, a box of tissues on the table. All designed to invite healing. But there was no healing happening in that room. Not with me in it. A court mediator named Landon sat across from us with a notepad and a calm expression. He had done this 100 times. You could tell. He thought he had seen it all. He had not seen me. He asked us each what we wanted from the process. Vivian went first. She said she wanted to save the marriage, that I was the only man she had ever truly loved, that she had made a terrible mistake driven by emotion and grief, that the baby deserved a father like me. She turned to me slightly as she spoke, eyes pleading, hands on the curve of her belly. She was selling it hard. Then it was my turn. I leaned back in the chair, arms crossed, looked right at Vivian and said 3 words. I hate her. The room went ice cold. I kept going. Until the day I die, I will carry that. That child is a living reminder of what she did. Every milestone, every birthday will be proof that my wife destroyed everything. As it grows, so will my hatred, for her and for that child. The mediator leaned forward. The anger you are holding, if you let it build, it will consume everything around you. I let out a short, bitter sound. It already has. I have lost who I was. My peace. My faith. All of it. Gone. Then I turned to Vivian. You were not just helping a dying man. You were in love with him. Admit it. She crumbled, slid from her chair to the floor, sobbing. I was in love with him. I do not know when it started. He was dying and I thought it was my last chance to feel close to him. I did not think about what it meant. I just felt it. I stood up, looked at the mediator. We are done here. Walked out without another word. 2 days later, the mediator submitted his report. This marriage is beyond saving. The judge signed the divorce decree. Vivian did not contest it. Okay, hold on. I gotta talk about what Garrett did in that courtroom because it was surgical. He did not yell. He did not attack. He used pure logic and walked Vivian through her own decisions, until she had nowhere to hide. And in the mediation, Nolan did not just say he hated her. He made the mediator understand that forcing this marriage to continue would make everything worse. 2 days later, the mediator agreed. That is not anger. That is strategy. That same week was Lily's 18th birthday. I planned the whole thing myself. Decorated the house with balloons and streamers. A modest cake sat on the kitchen table. Soft music playing in the background. From the outside, it looked like any other family gathering. Like maybe things were finally getting better. Like maybe the storm had passed and the man they all knew was coming back. I sent one message to the family. I have an announcement. Please come. Hope filled the air. Dangerously fragile hope. Donna arrived with a gift bag and sat quietly on the couch, watching me move through the house like she was trying to find some trace of the son she used to know. Frank prayed silently that the worst was behind us. Even Vivian, who had not dared to dream in weeks, allowed herself a flicker of something close to belief. But nobody noticed the look in my eyes. Nobody saw what was coming. After Lily blew out the candles, someone asked what she wished for. She blushed and looked at me. I wish our family could be together again. My face did not change. Welcome to adulthood, Lily. This is a world where wishes do not mean a thing. What matters is action. Good choices bring good results. Bad choices bring consequences. I pointed upstairs. Go pack your things. She stared at me. What? You knew what she did. You knew she betrayed me. And you said nothing. That makes you complicit. You picked a side, Lily. And you picked wrong. Your college fund is gone. My lawyer handled it last week. Good luck finding a job. Finding an apartment. That is what adulthood looks like. The biggest responsibility you will ever have is to yourself. I forgot that once. I paid the price. I looked her in the eyes. Learn from me. Do not make the same mistake. That is my last lesson for you. I looked around the table and stepped back. The party is over. Donna stepped forward and slapped me across the face. The crack echoed through the room. You are heartless, she said through her teeth. I did not flinch. I just turned my head slowly and smiled. Not at Donna, at Vivian. Nobody said goodbye. They all left in silence. Months passed. The divorce was final. I kept the house. Vivian got half my savings and half the retirement fund. The law is the law, and I did not argue it. I signed the papers with one stroke and walked out of that courthouse like a man leaving a funeral he did not want to attend. Vivian gave birth to a boy a few months later. He came early, small and fragile, wires on his chest, tubes in his lungs, fighting for every single breath inside a glass incubator. Donna called me that night. She gave birth, she said quietly. It is a boy. He is in an incubator. The delivery was hard. Vivian is not doing well. I said nothing. The line went dead. 2 days later, doctors told Vivian the baby had a congenital heart defect, genetic. His heart was too weak. The same blood that killed Brody had passed its poison onto his son. On the 5th day, the monitors went flat. The child passed quietly without a sound. They told Vivian gently. She did not scream. She did not move. Her eyes just stared at the ceiling. Within hours, her own vitals began to drop. Her pulse grew weak. The doctors scrambled, but there was nothing they could do. They called it broken heart syndrome. Vivian died 7 days after her son. She died without family at her side, without forgiveness, and without ever hearing my voice again. Lily left Glendale the same month. No letter, no phone call, no forwarding address. She packed a single bag, walked to the bus station on the edge of town, and got on a bus heading east. Disappeared completely. 18 years old, freshly cut off, carrying enough resentment toward me to fuel a lifetime of distance. Some said she went to Dallas. Others guessed Houston. Nobody knew for sure. And after everything that had happened, I was not about to go looking. Donna called me one last time. Her voice was tired. She is gone, Nolan. Your daughter is gone. I said nothing. Then I hung up. She never called again after that. The house grew lifeless. Not peaceful. Just dead. I stopped going out. No jobs. No fire station. No volunteer calls. The neighbors noticed, but nobody said a word. The man who once saved lives now spoke to no one. I lost weight. Stopped shaving. The house fell into the same disrepair I had spent years fixing for other people. The irony was not lost on me. I just did not care enough to do anything about it. I would sit on the porch sometimes, staring at the same field I had stared at my whole life and feel absolutely nothing. The grass still swayed, the wind still blew, the world kept turning, but I had stopped turning with it. Then one night came, cold wind rattling the windows. I sat alone in the living room, one crooked floor lamp casting weak light across the walls. The last photograph in the house hung in front of me. Vivian, Lily, and me, smiling, from another lifetime. My coffee had gone cold hours ago. I was not thinking about anything specific, just empty. The kind of empty that does not echo. It just sits there. Then the doorbell rang. I did not move at first. It rang again. I stood up slowly and walked to the door. When I opened it, Garrett Hines stood there in a black coat, smiling like a man who had timed his entrance perfectly. "I guess I am right on time," he said. I looked at him, eyes hollow, jaw tight. Then for the first time in weeks, the corner of my mouth lifted, just barely. Garrett stepped inside, looked around, took in the silence, the bare walls, the cold coffee on the table. He did not ask questions. He just pulled up a chair. "You are going to have some water, and you are going to sit down and listen to me." I raised an eyebrow, but sat down without a fight. Moments later, we were on the back porch. The yard was quiet under the night sky. A few crickets somewhere in the distance. We sat on opposite ends of an old wooden bench, one I had built years ago with my own hands. For nearly an hour we talked. No shouting, no tears, just two men. One broken, the other trying to put something back together. Garrett laid it all out. Something big. Something that needed a man like me. Someone who was done with everything. Someone with nothing left to lose. But maybe, just maybe, something left to gain. He talked about purpose, about starting over, about how the worst thing a man can do when he hits rock bottom is stay there. By the time Garrett finished, I was staring at the dark tree line behind my property. The crickets filled the silence for us. I did not speak right away, but when I finally did, my voice was steady. "Okay." We stood up. Garrett held out his hand. I shook it, firm and final. He went outside to wait by his car. The air was cool and sharp. A few minutes later, I came out of the house with a small duffel bag over my shoulder. I looked back at the place one last time. The dark windows, the broken porch light, the cracked door frame. This place was not a home anymore. It was a tomb for something that used to exist. Every room held a memory I no longer wanted to carry. I turned my back on it and walked to the car without looking over my shoulder again. We drove in silence to a small airfield outside of town. A helicopter sat waiting, rotors already turning. 3 hours later, we pulled up outside Garrett's house. The air felt different here, lighter, less suffocating. He led me down a hallway to a small bedroom. Inside, lying in a single bed, was a boy. Caleb did not move when we walked in. 10 years old, pale, eyes too heavy for someone that young. Garrett walked to the edge of the bed. "Caleb," he said gently, "I brought someone I want you to meet." The boy did not blink. I stepped forward slowly. No rush, no fake cheer. I knelt beside the bed, elbows on my knees, and looked at him. "Hey kid," I said. My voice was rough but warm, something it had not been in a long time. "You ever watch that show 2.5 Men?" Caleb turned his head just slightly, just enough to show he was listening. "Well," I continued, "here we are, 2 grown idiots and you. Looks like we have got our own version." His eyes flickered to me for 1 second, then back to the wall, but I caught it. A few minutes later, I joined Garrett in the kitchen. I grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, twisted off the cap, and sat down across from him at the small table. "He does not like you much," I said. Garrett nodded. His shoulders dropped with 2 years of failure. "Same kind of anger you carried for Vivian," he said quietly. I laughed. Not a sharp laugh. Something more human than anything that had come out of me in months. "Yeah, exactly the same. I have tried everything, man. I just cannot break through." I looked at the ceiling, exhaled, then brought my gaze back. "You did good bringing me here. The boy and I have something in common." Garrett raised an eyebrow. "What is that?" I smiled. Not cold this time. Sad, maybe. Almost peaceful. "We are both full of it," I said. "The same anger. The same emptiness. I guess that gives us a place to start." Garrett was quiet for a long moment. Then the corner of his mouth turned up. "I hope you are right." There was a long, comfortable silence between us. Garrett turned toward the kitchen window. Outside, in the soft morning light, a small butterfly drifted through the garden and disappeared into the sun. And that is where this story ends, folks. This one is heavy. Some of you are going to say he went too far. Others are going to say Vivian and Brody brought every bit of it on themselves. Here is what I will say. When you betray a genuinely good man, you do not just lose the relationship. You destroy the person. And what comes out the other side is someone you will not recognize. Vivian found that out. Brody found that out. And Lily found that out on her 18th birthday. If this one hit you, drop a like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. 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 Peace.